Welcome to another workshop video from Touro University. Today we're joined by Dr. Rosemary G. Fitzgerald, founder of Spiderweb Studio and digital strategist to Fortune 500s. Join us as she reveals how AI is transforming UX, UI, and digital marketing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI-driven transformation in digital marketing and UX, UI design. I'm Rose, your host for this exciting workshop, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
Good evening, everyone. As you can imagine, with artificial intelligence that is going so fast and furiously, it is constantly changing. I ended up having this particular presentation focus mostly on the power of AI and how it's beneficial to UX, UI, and that can impact graphic designers, advertising agencies, small business. It really is a plethora of different fields and job roles. And so I want to kind of highlight some of the exciting things that are happening in the industry. And then certainly, there are some downsides that are occurring and some things that can be of concern to people, that anything from ethics to, just some of the rights and privileges that are being violated.
How can AI empower small businesses to compete in the digital space?
There's a number of programs like this, and they're being incorporated into all kinds of environments. And, why does that impact UX, UI? Well, it actually is impacting one of the biggest ways is for small businesses to create material, to create assets that go out and try to sell their products and services that are affordable, trying to be a little bit more genuine, and don't require, let's say, setting up a video studio where you've got to hire tech staff, videographers, and then afterward do video editing. All of those pieces and components can get very expensive and not very affordable by small businesses. So one of the nice things from my perspective, I definitely am a glass half full type of person. So I see so much of the power that's available with AI. And one of the nice things about this is it is democratizing the ability for small businesses to present themselves more professionally and get access to niche audiences where they would be kind of pushed aside and they couldn't really afford the same level of creative material that is done by the large companies. So it's just one of the pieces that I wanted to highlight. The programs are very simple and a lot of fun to play around with. So if you get a chance, and the idea with all of these new AI programs, like if you are in the software world, you get a freemium version, a free version for you to play with, and they give you a number of credits. And then once you run out of those credits, they're hoping that you actually subscribe to a pay version. And for Creatify, you get a minimal number. I think it's only 10 credits. And with that, you can create one avatar, really, and this is about the length of the script. What's nice is when I'm working with my own students or with clients, we don't necessarily have to even hire someone who's a script writer, because you can use a couple different AI programs to help you develop scripts that will be used maybe in learning, client onboarding. If you're selling software, you can use it in promotional pieces on social, and just in general to help you understand a little bit of who your audience is and how you might communicate things and how they come across and how they sound. It's really very effective for training salespeople. So you can impact in many of the programs. Synthesia is another one. Canva is another one with a program called Nero. You can even adjust the inflection and the energy. So in the programs, you can augment your gender, age, location, in industry, as well as the style, and even all of the voices. So you can select all different kinds of voices, some more realistic than others, let's say, some with accents. So a company, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, in order for them to sell their product, we'll just go to England, they wouldn't necessarily be well received with an American accent. No comments today about that, but adding a British accent or some local type of accent that is well received depending on where you are geographically, it can help to introduce your products and services with higher reception, higher interest. Okay. I'm going to go through a little bit of how the industry itself is being transformed and what is happening, where is the growth, and who are the players really, right? So
How has AI transformed traditional marketing strategies into smarter, personalized experiences?
these first three, you probably all have heard quite a bit about. Marketing that is becoming more and more personalized. You probably even experienced that in a number of ways. Predictive analytics, of course, the more that we can predict what people will buy and where people will buy, the more affordable it is for a small business to put ads. So if I know that in March, and what has come back, especially now with the emergence of AI, are the automated customer interactions, the AI chatbots and virtual assistants. They have gotten so smart. And what's nice is they continue to learn. I mean, if you think about it, AI has been around for a long time. It's just now it's being put into platforms and environments that make it much easier for the layperson to be able to utilize, and small businesses that don't have to hire a consultant or an engineer. But some additional places that AI is transforming, especially for the digital marketing world, is with new prompt marketplaces, where creators are actually selling and buying and sharing the prompts that they're developing for AI platforms. We're going to look at a couple of those marketplaces and how it enables you to develop videos, animations, and images. Dynamic pricing and ad bidding. So in real time, programs can actually change prices and change ad bids so that it gives you a lot of control of the money that you're spending for your programs. Again, also benefiting small businesses. Enhanced targeting and segmentation, the effectiveness of demographics, and we're just looking at relevance and effectiveness in the ads, in the social promotions, in the programs that we're putting together, which is very good. What's fun is to look at some of the brands that are just hitting it out of the box with AI and AI bots. Specifically, Sephora has utilized bots to be extremely successful. Now, if you know Sephora, they carry a lot of brands, and their struggle always is how do they connect the potential customer with the exact brand and product that fits their needs. Because once they do that, they have a very loyal customer who will come back, and then they also have somebody who will talk about them. So what's been wild to watch is this little data point. Sephora's e-commerce sales grew from 580 million in 2016, and they're now over 3 billion. And that's really due a lot to the online sales, because their online beauty store generated about 3.6 billion in sales last year. And they're creating these bots that are getting smarter and also understanding niches. So you might get introduced to one bot, but as soon as they ask you a couple questions and you answer, they move you over to another bot who is specifically targeted to you, not just the knowledge they have, but the way that they talk to you, whether it's slower, faster, whether it's got age added in that helps with the relevance of what they're talking about. So it's great.
What new opportunities are opening up for AI experts in marketing and UX UI?
I have just 4 slides. What I want to do is touch on some of the new economies that are becoming opportunities for AI experts. And I will tell you all at the very end, I'm hoping I have enough time. I wanted to highlight 2 case studies, 2 individuals that have just renovated themselves, made themselves into AI experts. And they're not necessarily very techy. They're not necessarily the normal kind that would go in and teach themselves a program, but with the tools that they've used, they've recreated their whole career and their revenue opportunities. Now, if we look at graphic designers specifically, the new ways that graphic designers, let's say freelancers, for example, are creating opportunities is that they're creating designs more quickly and efficiently so they can be more affordable for clients. It doesn't take the same level of effort. And again, these are a little bit of generalizations. We're talking not, really heavily complicated graphic design, but in many respects, the ability to develop prototyping and develop them faster in product prototyping, logo prototyping. It's becoming something that's very valuable. Custom AI generated assets. So a lot of times we want something that's very unique to a brand that has that wraps itself around the brand style. And the tools that are available to develop illustrations, logos, and templates to be sold on platforms like Etsy or Creative Market are also opportunities for graphic designers to generate revenue opportunities for themselves. As you know, now we have a lot of stock libraries, we have voiceover libraries, we have design libraries where you know, like Fiverr or Shutterstock or so many more that it's off the top of my head, that you can go to and select particular individuals where you like their style, you like their portfolio, and target them to develop materials for you. Again, that's a huge change from what it was, let's say 15 years ago, where you couldn't easily see 100 portfolios and then have an initial conversation with 10 of those designers and then have 3 of them give you a quote. The speed and the reduced costs, the efficiency, all of those are a result of those kinds of marketplaces. Now we're seeing a full force introduction of many, many more marketplaces that are emerging, and these are some of them. Design automation. Services, as you are seeing different AI platforms come out, like the recent one from China, they're not just giving us information and creating visuals, they're actually looking at different kinds of tasks they can do. So there are many repetitive tasks, especially in larger agencies, that where AI can be extremely helpful. And that's another area. Some additional ones, just give me a second, I'm just moving the windows around. Video development, AR generated content. If you haven't used them so far, Midjourney is one of my favorites, Synthesia, there's Runway, and a little bit like the avatar that we saw, we can actually give those programs scripts, and we can choose to have an avatar or an animated character, or we can have the program just use visuals and videos to generate a full promotional program that we can put out on social. We can show at trade shows up on a booth and have it run. Much, much more affordable and feasible for businesses to be able to do. Localization services are just booming right now. With all of the emergence of streaming media around the world, the localization is going to be an important part for companies like Netflix to really engage people and keep audiences loyal. So the AI tools are helping tremendously. Virtual influencers and avatars. We just saw an avatar, and at the end, you guys can let me know what you thought of her mouth movement and her eye expressions, all that wonderful thing. But you can also generate avatars that are social media influencers that become very, very powerful. So now this is an avatar. It's not a real person. All the images that are created for this person's Facebook, Instagram, social media channels are developed through AI. She is a huge influencer. She has 7.7 million followers. Kind of interesting, the fact that she's not real, but people love her. And it is a team of people that are behind this particular person. It's not just one. It couldn't be, with the amount of product reviews that they do and videos and animations. But if you get a chance to check out some of the influencers that are out there, it's pretty crazy, but interesting and amazing how for brands you can develop these avatars that don't require an actual human. I have a very good friend who's actually developed her own, and she's one of the case studies, developed her own AI tools, and she's training them, and she is asking for people to jump on a freemium version to help train her tool. And she's in the movie industry, so it's very specific as to what she wants the AI to continue to learn. But you can train your AI tools for your brand. You can have it understand the type of language you want to use, the style of images, the character references, the image references, a whole host of things, so that the AI tools are going to get more and more particular for those different brands. A lot of universities are taking AI and implementing it in a private world where students get access to AI that's been trained by a university's database and AI technology and tools, so that it's specific to them, and it can have everything from, how they like you to reference sources to the language and style for papers that you want to develop. And then, of course, creative strategies. AI consultants right now are very, very in demand. If you have any knowledge or you're willing to learn and just jump right in, companies are looking to help get guided about how to handle their graphics, their designs, their products for their customers. So it's another way that you can have a different aspect to the career that you might look to pursue. I just wanted to touch base a little bit about, some things in the industry. And this is actually, I apologize, that's supposed to say Elon Musk makes a bid at 974 billion, not 97 billion. My mistake. So I wanted to bring that up. What is funny is that he wanted to buy OpenAI, which is GPT. And he made a bid, and then Sam Altman and his team came back and said, no, thank you, we won't let you buy us for 974 million, but we will buy Twitter for 97 billion. So they're going back and forth. There's a lot of legal wranglings going out there. One of them is Musk is trying to sue OpenAI because they were originally intended to be a nonprofit. And as OpenAI has, as you guys have seen, it has taken off like they never thought it would take off. They never anticipated the way that people would use it. It was supposed to be a program, a platform to help humanity. And what they've done is now, because they do still want to have a charitable component, they pay their investors back up to a certain level, and then any profits beyond that now go to a charity. So they're trying to stay a bit of them as a charity, but Musk is still trying to take them to court and sue them. So there are wars between all these programs, right? OpenAI, Copilot, Midjourney, OpenArt, all of them are trying to vie for your attention. All of them have a freemium version, so you can get in and you can play a little bit. But the ones that are getting more popular are charging you pretty quickly along the way. Right now, and this may change, OpenAI, ChatGPT, is more of a conversational tool, right? You can just go in and have a little conversation with its AI bot and get out some visuals, get out some reports, get out, your paper for the next class that you might be working on. And where Microsoft's goal is to tailor the tools that they have, Copilot, to helping you use their software more efficiently and more creatively. They want to stay focused in on the platforms that they have invested so much in. They may take on more of a conversational component to what they offer, but right now that's where the differences lie. And each one is continuing to just evolve and go crazy. ChatGPT alone keeps launching platforms where it's video to text to video. They have, on the last slide of the presentation, I have a slide that says, go try these because they're for free right now, where it will develop, not PowerPoint, but it will develop slide presentations for you. It'll help you do visualization with diagramming, all kinds of tools that they are trying to get in and explore.
From your perspective, what are some ethical or practical concerns surrounding the advancement of AI?
As I mentioned, AI has been around for a long time. Now it's been applied into tools that we're used to. If anybody uses Canva, right, the AI components in there are adding every single day. They now have the avatar capabilities. You can generate from text prompts. They haven't added the video, but they do have text to animations, and the video is coming along. So what's happened is with, let's say, ChatGPT, in order to train itself, in order to learn, it took every piece of content it possibly could get its hands on a number of years ago. This isn't anything recent. And they've been feeding it and feeding it and feeding it without anybody knowing, like, let's say, the New York Times. So the platform has been learning, but also, we have to be aware that it has bias, racial and gender bias, because it only is as smart as what we feed it. At least that's what most people will say. Some people will say it's going to be different, but we won't go there. And with the fact that it's taken everything available on the web, that could be content that a media outlet like New York Times wouldn't necessarily give them approval to do that, but they didn't know. So they've taken it already and they've learned from it. And a lot of the material online is copyrighted, but because they took it many years before they launched, nobody knew that they were taking copyrighted materials. So this is just a little bit of a picture of all the lawsuits that are happening. And if we zoom in a little bit, you can see how many are against OpenAI, Google, Bloomberg, and we've got New York Times. So you've got media sources, you've got individuals, you've got music groups that are all suing different AI companies because they feel that they're not paying for the material that they took, whether that's music, video, animations, formulas, anything, any of the content they have.
Which companies are leading in AI today, and how are businesses turning AI into profit?
So, if we're looking at the digital AI marketing platforms, these are some of the big players, the ones that most people are, from a UX UI perspective, that are jumping in and embracing. And it's quite the list. Honestly, I added 2 here that I haven't even tried just before the presentation. And you heard about Manus, right? It's coming out of China just last week, was it that they announced it? They've been working on it, so people know about it, but that they've come out and formally pronounced it to the world. And they are saying that they are not just an informational kind of AI tool like ChatGPT, but that they can do tasks. And tasks could include booking your flights. It could be booking a restaurant. Those are very simple ones. But what if, from a digital marketing perspective, you could say, here's the company I am. Here is all my brand elements, like my logo, my messaging, and my collateral. Can you put together a Facebook advertising campaign and go run it for me? And here's the budget that I have. And you can't spend over this budget, whatever the parameters are. So it eventually is saying that they'll be able to do much more sophisticated tasks where we will be able to really focus in on things like strategy, not necessarily having to have someone sit there every day in front of a desk managing and overseeing a platform like Facebook. To me, that's scary, just because I know, for Google and Facebook, how there's so many nuances to manage tasks like that, but it is potentially in the future. That's that kind of thing. We're going to touch on a few of these programs, and I'll mention when a few case studies of showing some very simple product prototyping and how we're using some of these platforms. Just to give you a little bit of a further view, these are some additional AI tools. It is everywhere, right? And 2 of the ones I just want to mention, first of all, MailChimp. If you don't know that, it's a very basic email marketing platform. It's growing in its capabilities, like Wix.com is, and it's adding in AI because they realize that's what's going to set them apart. And so not just will they help you in deploying the emails matched to your contact database, they will help you target niche audiences to get a higher return on investment. And another one is a program called ManyChat. And this is a program that responds to customers on social platforms, including WhatsApp. So it's kind of like an AI bot, but it's going out on social and helping to connect and then have conversations. But it's a bot. It's not a real person. Of course, what we're trying to train AI bots to do is to know when to hand you off to a real person. And it's getting there. It's not great. Okay, so a little bit about the growth, right? And what I wanted to present is, out of the over 1,200 startups that are valued at over $1 billion in the world today, half of the unicorn startups last year are developing AI or incorporating AI into their platform. And from that perspective, it is impacting so many of the businesses and practices, best practices, and processes that we're used to. OpenAI right now, that has ChatGPT, is ranked 3rd in the world as far as its value. And private startups in 2024, 70 out of 79 of them, 36 of them were in the AI sector. So just to give a little bit of perspective, it's growing and, it gets a lot of media attention. But right now, it's only looking at a 0.1% boost to the economic growth. And I just wanted to put that out there. I don't want to make it seem like, there is nothing else in the world that is generating revenue. But when you think about OpenAI as the 3rd most valuable company in the world, that's pretty impressive. And then if we look a little further, you see is a good source, and they're ranking it about 14.5 of GDP by 2030, which is about 10.7 trillion. So it is only going to expand. I know it can be overwhelming and it can be scary for companies too, to figure out if they are getting replaced, but I always see it as opportunity. It's just how we're using the technology. Okay, I just wanted to give a quick example. So this is one of the programs that's fun to use. Let me just move. I love OpenArt. I don't know if you've used this, but I enjoy it, and they don't charge you crazy numbers. So this enables you to input text prompts to create unique images. And for this, I was writing a blog, and it was about bias in AI and how companies can address it, how they can ensure that the bias doesn't seep its way into their social media or their promotional videos or their ads, that kind of thing. So working on an image to prompt kind of execution, you're crafting the prompt and hoping to see something that would reflect your ideas. This came nowhere close. Okay, this didn't even touch what I was thinking about for it, but it's okay. What I want to mention, we're going to look a little further, is that AI can be very helpful in knowing how to use AI. So AI, one of the biggest marketplaces, as we mentioned, are the prompt databases that are available online. But even if you're just using ChatGPT, you can ask it to help you create prompts. And then when they're not working, say, why aren't they working? And sometimes I will say also a good strategy is to use more than one AI platform. Right now I have students doing a lot of comparison, just even with the budgets they're putting together for their new companies, between DeepSeek and ChatGPT. And we're looking and comparing and seeing how it's weighing the return on investment when we're describing a certain marketing strategy. So from that perspective, it's a lot of fun. But again, a whole nother area that you could go into. So this image didn't work. It's trying to talk about racial bias, and you'll see as you're using image generators from text prompts that it still is not good at spelling correctly or showing words that are spelled correctly. It's getting a lot better, but it's not quite there. So right now, a lot of people use Photoshop or they use Canva and they work together. So this was another iteration of that same image, which was from a different AI tool. And then in OpenArt, changing the prompt to have it be more specific to being half human and half robot, it was getting a little closer to what I wanted, because I was looking at this brain being fed by all these different individuals and the bias, trying to not have it be inherent bias. What you can do is you can, for this particular program, it's a lot of fun, and you can have it convert image to video, image to image, play with the style references. If you have an image that is of somebody gave you flowers for Valentine's Day, but you want it to be in a Monet kind of style, and frame that in your apartment. You can use a Monet as a reference and put your image of the flowers your boyfriend or husband gave you, thinking it's women, but it can be anybody. It can be men, women, doesn't matter. And the AI will apply styles, and that's where we're talking about learning. All right, that a brand specifically can have a brand style, and you could have a reference database of 15, 20, how many ever photos you might want, images that you're creating, and you want anything new to always reference those styles. So then we, continuing to play around with the image, what I wanted to highlight of this particular platform is that if you don't like an element that's in the image, let's say over here on the cat, where I like this, but I want to highlight the cat's eyes and add in goggles or glasses to an image. Here, I didn't like the little icons around her head, so I actually highlighted those and asked it to regenerate and give me something better in that area. So it will keep the rest of it alone, and I can modify the image. Similar thing playing around here. Okay, so what it ended up coming out to be, which is a little unusual, and remember, AI is, there's not any perfect answer. It's still evolving, we're still learning, but you can play and create videos where I've got images that are popping in this character's head that she's thinking about to consider what the visuals should be. This one did a little bit of a different kind of animation where the robot is turning and thinking. And what's nice is that there are programs that are getting better about video editing, making it very, very easy. With Runway, what I could take is 3 or 4 of these videos, and it will actually let me put them together to create a full promotional piece, if that's what I wanted to do. One of the things that we want to do is look at what programs are giving us the best results for the styles of images that we are developing. And again, we're trying to train.
From your experience, what are the top concerns or questions professionals have about AI integration?
Take a look at the questions that are posed. These are the common questions that we are posed. What new skills will UX UI designers need to stay relevant? How does AI change the balance between technical and creative skills? Many people who are embracing AI are getting more technical. I will say that. I know a lot of designers, are worried because they're not necessarily technically oriented, but the tools, the training available, programs like the artificial intelligence program at Turo are very, very good in helping people get up to speed very quickly. How can professionals leverage AI to enhance rather than replace their expertise? Are we at a precipice of the biggest change in design? Does AI take away creativity? And are things getting faster, better, easier? What role will we play? So all these questions are spinning around. And really, what Turo is doing as well is asking these questions and deciding what are the skills and capabilities and expertise that we need to build in the students so that they go out to these companies and can be leaders and can help guide as consultants or technologists as well as graphic designers in order to be able to put it together. Jobs, just to mention really quickly, there are 21% growth AI-related careers. Expected to create about 170 million jobs worldwide. We know that it will displace a lot, so it's going to be about a 7% increase overall. But you can see in the fastest growing jobs related to AI are AI and machine learning specialists in this list, in this report, UX and UI designers. Very exciting, right? And it's, again, I know overwhelming, but you just put your head into it and jump right in. A little bit of additional information. AI engineer ranks globally #1, followed very quickly by AI consultants. Now, AI consultants can just go across the board. Consultant can be to an agency to come in and help them understand what is possible and what tools they might want to take on. Maybe you're not an expert graphic designer, but you can help people figure out how to utilize each of these tools in their organizations. And artificial intelligence researchers. And again, researchers don't just mean somebody that's, looking up information to be included in research studies. It can be research related to finding where niche markets are. And ChatGPT is, becoming a very powerful channel to be able to do that type of research and find valuable data points, even for startup companies, to validate themselves when they're presenting their businesses to investors. I'm going to go through this screen kind of quickly because I want to keep going. You can see 15.7 trillion global economy. What's interesting to look at from these numbers is 9 trillion is to come from consumption side effects. So people that are utilizing AI, not that AI is incorporated into, software that you don't really recognize the value of it. Those could be games, those could be different apps, they could be tools that you use to help manage your home. But then you are looking at a 26% boost in GDP overall. So it's going to drive greater product variety, increased personalization, and affordability. Because you're able to create 5 versions of an app that you can sell to 5 very different markets, and that development is faster, easier, and better, that makes it much more possible for companies to go global, to generate additional revenue, and have more opportunities, which again then impacts all of these fields in AI and UX.
In what ways can AI support small businesses in rapidly prototyping web and app solutions?
I'm going to give you a couple of fun examples. So these are actually some examples of fast prototyping. And when I say fast prototyping, I mean in the digital marketing world that we're test marketing ideas, that we're visualizing new product lines, that we're looking at how we can, of course, if we can fast prototype, it's cost savings. We don't need to get in a group of people that are going to spend weeks and weeks and weeks putting together the designs of new products and the logos and the brand styles. We're going to play around with some UI, UX ideas that enable us to get to market more quickly and to put materials in front of your target audience to test. Right? You want to test if they're receptive to them. Time to market, like I said, and your competitive response. So if a competitor's coming out with a new product, you as a small business, let's say, can respond that much faster, which is very exciting. Okay, so this is actually a company that is developing, and again, just moving windows, and they want to call it Casa Mia, and it is a pasta app. It's an app. So what we're able to very quickly do is play around with company names, with taglines, with visuals for the app itself, and then visuals that you might use in social media or in other promotions, which is great. What is so much fun, if you haven't done it, is playing with logos. So the logo AI world has gone crazy, and there are so many wonderful programs that enable us to develop very different UI designs for different brands to test what works, because you can look at the style, you can look at, will it appeal to a particular audience? Maybe one is it might be more appropriate for families and people that are making meals staying at home. Others might be, for that are looking to buy the pasta in a local store. So you play around with a lot of these. So Canva is a very good tool, Logo AI. And the other one is Canva as well. And I think, yes, Wix. Now, if you know Wix, it's a website hosting company. That's where they came from. But they are very quickly adding in AI capabilities to keep you in their platform and to play around with tools like developing logos. So for this platform, developing some additional images. And, we're looking at how human they look and how realistic they look is getting better and better. Sometimes I'm going to just, make a point of it is that these girls look a little too similar to each other. So that can potentially not be a good thing. I'm going to go look at a video that they put together in a second. And I just want to show you one other particular brand. So this is a brand for dogs. It's called Posh Collection, like posh, very upscale. And this was putting together a brand that would appeal to dogs that are adventurers, that their owners like to go hiking, they like to go exploring. So played around with different logos that would be appropriate for that kind of brand. Some you can see they get a little too busy, some are a little wacky, some they are great for, you could see it on all kinds of t-shirts and backpacks, that type of thing. And then playing with products. Now, I'm bringing this one up because it is a little funny, and the person working on it got a little unrealistic because obviously, well, not obviously, but you couldn't really put this on a dog and have them not fight with you to get it off. But there are actually companies working on goggles for dogs. And this was looking at some product brand designs, which ChatGPT, these are done through ChatGPT, was very helpful in devising. They also were looking at clothing, right? So you could mock up different styles of pet clothing. Again, very quick way to develop some of the product ideas that someone has that they could then put in front of an investor, which is a lot of fun. And I'm going to show you that video. So this is for the pasta.
Authentic Italian flavors, right in your kitchen. Discover Casamia, the app that brings Italy to your plate. Fresh recipes, step-by-step guides. Start cooking today.
Okay, I know maybe not everybody's been, immersed in marketing, but if 10 years ago we said that we could create this little video promo as quickly as we have for this particular client's brand, no one would have believed you. Now, this is using a program called Bead, and then what they've also done is brought it into Canva to add some other elements on top of it, but pretty nice. And then the peak pause doesn't have music, but it's the dog running around in the outfit with the owner out in the snow, all AI generated. And it looks pretty realistic. It could be a nice little video in the background for a promotion that you're having for your brand at the store this weekend. And you didn't have to hire actors. You didn't have to go find snow. You didn't have to find a dog that would do what you wanted it to do. And you can create 100 different variations of this at a very low price, very low cost. A little bit of a different, it's for a home decor business where again we're playing with different programs to provide logo designs to figure out what the brand should be, what kind of styles and designs the customer likes. This is for an app that will help you create your own patterns, your own textiles that you can then order for your pillows, for your couches, for your walls, artwork. You can see the different layouts, and the app enables you to take a picture of your room. But you can see it's a very quick way of, even if it's not a formal commercial that we're putting out on social, but it gives you an idea of the style of commercials that you want to develop. And it, again, goes along this idea of very fast prototyping. One last one, just looking at fast prototyping. Here again, you've got a company that's trying to sell fast meals that you get delivered that is authentic Chinese vegetables and ingredients, spices, and playing around with a couple different logos. And you're going to laugh a little bit at this video, but take a look. So this wasn't really supposed to be a wok inside of a box, because obviously you're not getting that wok delivered to you. But when it played, it was an interesting visual that they actually ended up using in the promotion for the business, just to get the point across for how it worked. So a lot of fun, a lot of creativity. All right.
Thank you for those fun examples. Now, could you tell us if AI the best coach for learning how to work with AI?
We're going to talk a little bit about using AI to help you use AI. So programs like OpenArt enable you to grab models. And a model is something that's been trained for a particular style that you may want to utilize in your material. And it could be for a whole brand, for a company, or it could just be for one single image. And you can go in and grab the gallery, because you can then use those images as reference images, and also the prompts. So this marketplace is exploding. So a very, very different style, right? For these little characters that you might want to use in a commercial. If you're not interested in using people that are humans, but they're more avatars, then you can create characters that you can use in different promotions and different marketing. what's wonderful here, we'll give you an example prompt that you can copy, and then it will give you reference images. So if you did, not that you might want to, but if you were selling a new line of jeans and you couldn't afford real models, you could go in and put the jeans on these models and decide if you want very earthy, crunchy girls, or you want people that are more formal and upper scale, luxury, whatever the style may be. You can go in, and individuals and companies are starting to put these models together that you can grab onto. Similar deal with here. This is a Disney Pixar cartoon gallery, and you could use these images as references to characters that you might want to utilize for your material. Again, all that we've been going through today, just, I can imagine there's people going, but how is it right for you to use AI generative technology and grab someone else's style? Well, you could do that without AI. You don't need AI to do that, to mimic someone else's style, and people do it all the time. This just makes it a lot easier. But I understand there are a lot of issues that will come up over the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years that will be challenging some of what AI is making available for us. You can even see that you could go in and grab an image and a style for some of our former presidents and utilize those maybe for a new game that you're creating. Of course, people have to understand certain copyrights and all kinds of things, but you might take one president and merge him with 5 others to get a new AI generated president that you want to use in that game. What's interesting is that if an image is publicly available and I can grab it and add it into my AI and teach my AI that I want to add 5 presidents together to create a new president, there's no way necessarily for you to get sued related to that unless there's a tracking capability. The cryptocurrency and blockchain is able to embed code in images. Like if you use Getty images, all of those have a code that's embedded. So if you're using a photo it hasn't been approved for where you're using it, you definitely will get sued. And I know I've had experienced that. New feature, comfy UI workflows, a different program that enables you to work on different issues that people are encountering in the world of AI. One of the things that I mentioned before is that AI is not good in generating text on a screen in a promotion. One of the other things that it doesn't do very well are hands and feet and legs. Sometimes it will give people 3 legs, sometimes it will give them 2 fingers instead of 5, or they'll be wacky and really very strangely presented. I'm just checking because I think, also teeth. Yes, the avatar is copyrighted. You're excellent point, Chuck. Yes, and you have to align with that. So the programs themselves, the platforms that are creating a lot of these things, like the avatars and the AI generated avatars, are realizing that they themselves want to not just give you something and it goes off and you can reuse it in 50 ways. They know that their revenue channels will be reliant on making sure that the copyrighted elements that they are putting out there are tracked. And yes, spaghetti is a blast. I love that. Thanks. Oh, wonderful. Thank you guys for your text. That's great. So this is a program called Running Hub. I'm going to go to the next screen. So Running Hub is a lot of fun. And what it will let you do, they have a lot of tools. One of them is the Pet Fashion Blockbuster. You basically upload one image of an animal that maybe your pet, maybe, I don't know, your favorite type of animal, and they will create a fashion show for you with the pet being the star actor. So again, if you don't want to have fake actresses wearing your jeans, you could have a few pets wearing your clothing, and you wouldn't necessarily feel it makes people feel a little bit more comfortable when you're doing that. It's interesting. So you can upload your clothing, and if you've got a new brand and you want the pets to actually do the fashion show, you can do that as well. What's fun is it will, like you see down here, It will give you the directions for how to open the workflow, all the steps to do, and it's sampling generations for you to take a look at so you can decide what's working, what's not, and create a pet fashion blockbuster. So I know, it's just an example of how the programs are being used. Here's for a book called Haley's Heart, trying to look at different styles for the book itself. And it's just a good example when you're playing around with programs, ChatGPT, Midjourney, DALL-E, OpenArt, all of those. They'll give you different feels and effects. So here the book has, a couple different styles. Here's another image where, this book is about kids that have special powers in their hearts. So they're trying to highlight that, and they live in a land where there's a lot of fairies. So from even just a book cover perspective, the different visuals that you can develop using AI for UX and UI designers gives us a lot of power and a lot of creativity. It's like juice, just feeding in there and giving us some creative, just pushing the limits on where our ideas may go. And for this book, what we're trying to do is get this particular character, Haley, to have a certain style. So let's go. And so this style before, she was a little too cartoonish. So we wanted to go into programs where you can tell you want to create a character for your book or your video, and it will let you start creating those characters and making adjustments and refining them to enable you to get something that really aligns with what you want to do. And there's just so many, which is fun, but then a little scary at the same time. So hopefully what we wanted to do, instead of that cartoonish version, I wanted to pick a different style. So we went with this RPG version that was a little bit trying to get the girl to be a little bit more realistic, a little bit more mature. We played around with some of what we wanted her hair to look like and the radiant smile. And I just as a laugh, this is what it came up with initially, which was obviously not what I was looking for. But then when we refined it even more, it gave us a few different options for us to play with. And of course, she's living on an island. We're trying to figure out what clothing will she wear? What styles will she have? Because that is very important in this particular type of book because of the merchandising that goes along with it, and some additional characters. So this helped us in refining what we were thinking about for this particular character for this book. And then what we wanted to also play around was part of the stories. We wanted to put her on a horse and that would be running along the ocean. So we found some images that we liked and then used them to create a fantasy kind of visual of her with wings. You'll see that right here, she only has one wing, which is nice, but we're just using this as an example. But what you can do, which is a lot of fun, is you can play with the character's expressions, the background, the image size, which is great that you can modify this and it can add on. If I wanted this to be really wide, it could add on more of a forest if I wanted that. Styles, remove objects. So for this girl, we liked her body and the dress was pretty good. We had to fix that it didn't have a wing. And you can see here that what it will also let you do is change the background. Really great, lots of fun. So I can decide that that's what I want to do, and it usually does a pretty good job. It will highlight all of the background area, and what you can go in and do is decide that maybe it took too much of the tail away, or I want this one tree. I don't know why I would do that, but you can go around and refine the border if in fact you feel like it's taking too much away. You can also play with layers, so that you can decide that you want to add a lot of flowers, but they should be on another layer so that you can blend them and not have them impact your main visual. And what's great is after doing that, sorry, there was an extra image in there. What we get to is the character on the beach. And you can look at how it fits and ask it to create multiple versions of the image so that you decide what you like, how it fits along the beach. Should there be waves? Should there be a rocky edge? Whatever you might like to do. And then you can and even add a wing in, which it did, which was interesting because it doesn't matter. It kind of created a couple wings. But anyway, just to go on. with this image. We like it now on the beach, but if you look at the face here, I'm going to zoom in. Look how it got really kind of warped and got just crushed in the generation, and the hand did as well. So again, we go back in this, oh, it's open art. Chuck, it's open art. Yay, I thought it might be. That you can highlight this face and ask it to give me a different face. And maybe you want it slightly different and turned, make the head turn. And maybe you want it to even be looking down. Okay? So there's so much creativity, and just as you know, you can see that it sort of is blending. I had not, before I put this in the presentation, I had not done blending before yet. So I'm able to go back in and further blend for it. Identified it for me. Okay, cool. That's great. That's how you're using AI during AI. It's great. So these are the kinds of things that you can highlight, and you can see that, especially for hands, how here you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fingers, and obviously it will adjust and go work with you on different prompts because her hands are a little warped and kind of weird. One of the biggest areas that I'm intrigued by are all the economies that are developing out of AI, where people that are graphic designers, for example, that are very worried about their career, starting to learn AI and getting in and really making new opportunities for themselves. And the prompt marketplaces are growing and growing and growing in functionality and capabilities of what you can do with those prompts, and they're learning what people can do with prompts. So these are just a few examples of them. Here's this is prompt based, where I can go in and I like these little critters and I want to create my own critters for whatever promotion or business that I have. And I can go in and it'll charge me $5. They're all very inexpensive right now. And I can get the prompt as well as reference images, which is amazing. Here's a different one, which is more along the lines of a museum. Just have to here, and it will give me the text prompts as well as generate reference images where I could create my own museum and decide that I want all race cars. I don't want a motorcycle, whatever it may be, but I can adjust this and use it as I would like. So this is what they look like. They're little, this one's prompt based. Go in and any of these you can actually pull up and see the different styles, and some are free, and again, yeah, so I just wanted to give you a chance to look at that live. Okay, image to video, something you guys have probably all tried and played around with, where you've got a wonderful image that you love, but you want to make it interactive. You want to make it moving and feeling. So here, what you can actually ask it to do is to keep the face as best possible and move the other elements that are around the face. If you watch the eye, it keeps a lot of things very still, but if you watch the eye, it moves just slightly, which I wouldn't want it to do. But to give you an example of it, how you can play around with that. And again, this is Runway, which is one of my favorites as well, where you're asking it to play with the images. And here, this is a different style, same image, but you're changing the prompt where I'm asking it to, have the colors painting the visual through the brain and the mind, and it gives a very different effect. Let's see if I can get it to play. Same image. We're just slightly changing the prompt. So as you know, it's just so much fun. I will say Runway is probably my favorite for handling still images and adding movement to them. So here's one that's I was using for a different project, create a video of a large Chinese vase. I think this was one I had with the students in class, where the vase turns into a beautiful princess, and you'll watch how it moves. Very simple prompt, playing around with it as it goes into the room, and was supposed to turn into a princess and almost gets there. Each of these programs, you're limited to 10 seconds, 15 seconds, unless you're actually going to pay a lot of money, right? So right now, that's why you'll see a lot of people creating series. They'll create one image, one video, and then they'll take the screenshot of the last part of the video like this. So if I was playing this, I would go and take a screen grab of the last image and have that be the beginning of the next part of my video and merge them together in a program like Runway. So I might, create the images in Midjourney and then implement them. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to give 2 case studies to highlight. One is our 2 individuals that I have watched just their innovation of how they've changed and modified and developed their career because of AI has been fascinating. Kelly is a graphic designer, was always a graphic designer, and she's just jumped in full force. She actually, they're paying her to use Runway and to use Midjourney because of how innovative she is with their tools. And she was one of the first graphic artists to be able to do that. And she is the first person to tell me that for my students, if you're into UX, UI, graphic design, you have to put your arms around UI. Oops, sorry. AI, UI. Valerie is more, she's in the movie industry, and she actually has used AI to develop 3 applications. And I'm just going to jump out of here and show you a little bit of what they've put together. Yes, as you know, so these are Kelly, but I'm going to show you live. Let's see. All right, so this individual has always worked on movies and in the area of developing scripts and coming up with creative ideas in order to get funded and putting together storyboards. So she actually took AI, and let's say ChatGPT will help you learn how to incorporate AI into and create an app, perhaps out on AI, ChatGPT, and it will help you in creating new scripts to be sold to Hollywood. It's fascinating. We don't have time here tonight to really get in that deep, but if you want to become a beta user of it, she would love it. And she's training it on a daily basis, seeing how it's working with particular individuals who are in that movie business. So it's kind of fun that we saw. So Kelly, yes. So Kelly is the graphic artist. And what is wonderful about Kelly, if you go and look at her LinkedIn, in every post that she puts up there, she actually explains exactly what she used to put together her pieces. Hopefully you can hear the audio too. Each are little snippets, little scenes, and she pulls them all together eventually into one longer video. Just to play around with a little bit of a different one. Again, she'll explain exactly what she's using. And also she's creating her own music, which has been for her something very exciting. So this is, I've got a few more and then I'll be done. So if we have questions, I just need a couple more minutes. So she's writing this music using Suno.
Build my soul on a diner tab. Sky's got a smirk, streets got a grin. Life rolls dice, never lets me win.
What's fascinating when you speak to her, a couple things. She's selling her music too. She's actually putting it up for sale and getting a lot of customers. And then the other thing that she will say is that she's no genius. She is not someone that is necessarily heavily technical, nor, a programmer in any respect. She just plays around with the prompts. And, what's the only challenge that we have versus what she doesn't have is that she doesn't have a limit, right? Everybody gets points when you're using different channels like Midjourney. So you can't play for hours and hours where she can without having it cost her so much. But she will say that you just try to be as weird and wacky and creative and let the AI help you create new AI.
We truly appreciate your time and expertise. At this point, we'd like to invite questions from the audience.
Oh, how is it possible to create your own music? So yes, sometimes it's her own voice, sometimes it's AI generated. She's using AI to help her with some of the lyrics that she's developing. And then Suno is the program that she uses very often, but there's another one called Song. But you can see that she has Suno right here to help her in developing the music. So it's another AI tool. And I'll answer the rest of the questions in cinematic. I wanted you to see this because of the quality of the creatures that she's been able to create. You could so see this as a commercial for trench coats, right? Or coats in general for a fashion store. So that's one. So it'll stop. Two more for very good with creating different creatures. Again, all AI prompts, nothing really elaborate, nothing. It's not like there's 5, pages of prompts. They're all sort of short and just innovative and creative. So that's one that she's done. And the last one I wanted to give it as an example, and I'll tell you why once this plays a little bit. So I will tell you that was one of her first videos that she did. And it was little mini vignettes that she added together in a video, at that time in a video editing program, not Runway, where this was one of the earliest ones. And she got, in a week, she got about 40,000 followers. And now she's, up to insane numbers for her. So it has reinvented her. One channel that she has used relentlessly and so successfully is LinkedIn. And so she puts up her stuff. It's not just Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. She's been putting up material on LinkedIn. And so companies are like, wow, I want to utilize those kinds of skills and capabilities to develop creative for my business that will really stand out. And I just wanted to mention that because she's had so much success. So I know it's 8:23 and I only left 7 minutes. But were there any other questions or, while we're doing that, let me bring back up this, because what I wanted to mention here is some of the tools that ChatGPT is coming out with. They've got a website generator tool, presenter generator GPT, and an AI diagram generator. Pretty interesting. They're of course not going to always be free, so you might want to play around with them if you have a need, but they're, ChatGPT wants everybody over on their side and not going over to Gemini or not going over to, for tonight we would just stay very positive and upbeat just about the potential, because there is just so much to cover. So a whirlwind tour. Thank you, Larry. I love that. That's wonderful. Yeah, if you guys have any information or questions, with Turo, they have been amazing letting me incorporate AI into each of the classes that I teach for them. So whether it's digital marketing or e-learning and e-gaming, we have embraced AI, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'm currently with Turo I received a grant from them to work on research related to the economies that are evolving around AI and the opportunities for people, like I was saying.
Okay, nice. So as you said, social media influencer, can we use that? Yes, these, artificial people in terms of marketing or presenting some specific, I don't know, maybe some specific product like jewelry, clothing, or makeup things. So basically we have them as an icon to
or a moving avatar. The woman that we showed at the beginning, that is, you use that program, Creatify, and you can create a kind of realistic look. It is a realistic looking person, which, just their mouth is the piece that's moving. Or in this case, if you looked at her channel, she actually is an AI generated 3D kind of character that will get requests from companies to review their products as an avatar. And so, yes, there are many products now that are using AI instead of, let's say, live actors for commercials. Yes. Now, I'm just going to interject a little bit. I think we're pretty savvy. We can tell the difference between AI and not AI. And there are brands that are, putting their hand up and saying, no, 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 like Dove. Dove, is about the real woman, not anything perfect, cookie cutter. So they have actually come out as a brand and said, we will never use AI generated women. But I think if you're demonstrating, a hair dryer, or I don't know, let's see, a steering wheel warmer, something like that, you don't necessarily care as much that it's an avatar generated character versus a real person.
And I got my answer.
Yes, and just one last thing. The reality is that as new businesses, small businesses, are trying to compete, they will be taking advantage of these non-human kinds of tools and approaches and techniques, because it does give them an opportunity to compete. And yes, we had another, Eliane, that was a great question. We had another question.
No, thank you for now. Thanks.
Thank you once again for being with us and sharing your expertise. And thanks to everyone who joined us today. To learn more about our program, please feel free to reach out using the contact information below.